we can say about the present time. The dragon declared war. He gave power to the beast over every nation. Apocalypse chapter 12 and 13. If we want to be saved, we have to fight against evil and the spiritual forces of evil under heaven. Ephesians chapter 6. Jesus says even to you, O man, what will you benefit if you gain the whole world, but lose your own soul? Mark chapter 8. The devil is a liar and a murderer, and the apocalyptic beast is a system whose aim is to cast entire nations into temporal death and eternal damnation. What means does it use? Above all, professionalize under the guise of positive terms in legislation and in the mainstream media. And what are the fruits? Pseudo-laws destroying the society. We witness the mass spread of drug abuse, alcoholism, immorality, perversion, destructive sects, Satanism. People are turned into mediums and zombies. All spheres of life have already been penetrated by this infection of lies and ideology of death. Young people who escaped slavish bondage and are eager to fight for truth meet with a false ideal in martial arts. They do not know that they begin with sports and through Oriental meditations they end under the power of so-called energies, in fact, demons. They are dominated by a spirit of pride and aggression. They by no means become warriors against the spirit and system of lies and death. And what is true heroism? To start from yourself. To start with true repentance, which is connected with self-knowledge. To admit that the source of evil and lies is in each of us. To fight against it and to ask God for light and strength. Then, to fight against the system which nowadays leads all nations to self-destruction and, moreover, to eternal perdition. To resist the system is true heroism and spiritual martyrdom. Who becomes a victim of psychological war today and why? Those who want to be up to standard. In psychological war, young people, especially students, often become victims for their youthful pride. A demagogue who knows how to build up his own image fascinates students by his apparent erudition and confident judgment of all, that he understands a little or doesn't understand at all, and he arrogantly ridicules all opponents as primitives and lowbrows. So all are afraid of being humiliated and are thus easy to manipulate. No one dares not to admire the emperor's new clothes. The whole contemporary deceptive mainstream works on this principle. How could European countries give in to the wave of refugees? It was pride again. This time, under a cloak of political correctness. Politicians know that they cannot afford to give the impression at international talks that they do not want to accept the lie about refugees. Neither can they afford to say that it is not about refugees at all. Why do Christians not demand protection against Islamization? Because in their pride, they are afraid of being branded merciless. But they are not afraid to commit spiritual suicide. And how has the promotion of homosexuality succeeded? Society has been confronted with the image of homosexuality, pedophilia, and LGBTQ orientation in general as of a higher standard. If anyone is unable to understand these new so-called human rights, one is ridiculed and morally destroyed as a homophobe and fascist. The brainwashing campaign continues until public opinion changes so much that people no longer dare to call perversion perversion. It goes so far that people are even ashamed of morality. Who implements this program and what is their aim? It is the program of the spirit of lies, and its aim is genocide on earth and hell after death. Church leaders and politicians, on this principle of pride, are afraid, for example, to stand up against a gay pride parade and to call it by its proper name. During the first gay pride parade, the spokesman of the bishops of Slovakia swore blind that the bishops had nothing to do with the protest march in support of the family. But what is a gay pride parade? Abnormal and public indecency and perversion. So, if the clergy are in favor of indecency, why did they support the activities of non-profit organizations for a decent Slovakia? If the clergy, non-profit organizations and mass media come out in support of a decent Slovakia, why do they not demand a ban on indecent gay pride marches held every year? Strange schizophrenia and strange warriors. And for what? For lies and for the ideology of death. How is the concept of discrimination misused? Each state must adopt anti-discrimination laws in order to show that it doesn't discriminate against minorities. However, the fact that under the so-called anti-discrimination law, it discriminates against 98% of citizens, that's okay. This is again human pride and foolishness, which doesn't allow people to call black black and white white. What kinds of laws are adopted in the parliaments today under this principle of pride? An example is the Czech Republic. In keeping with so-called human rights standards, everyone has the right either to undergo a sex change operation or to change his or her sex without surgery. But they have thus got into a fine mess. If a woman changes her gender, her husband must change his gender as well, so as to preserve their marriage. Or else, the state must legalize same-sex marriages. And this stupidity is taken seriously at a parliamentary level. If only at least one member of parliament could say, only a fool can vote for such laws. Lift up your hands so that everyone can see who's voting for it. What does the option of inter mean in the birth certificates? France has legalized the right to include the entry inter in the birth certificate as a third gender option. In fact, it means that one can be now a woman, now a man, and even has a choice of more than 30 genders. According to what an unclean jinn suggests to them, they make changes in their official documents. Where is a sense of truth and reality? This is an absolute madhouse. But this madhouse is considered to be of a higher standard. Why did it happen? Because humility and truth have disappeared from human hearts, and everyone is afraid of being ridiculed. We need true heroism. We need to stand up for the truth. What is the impact of the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child? In essence, it is the greatest injustice and crime. Under the banner of the rights of the child, children are deprived of the most basic right to their own parents. They can be stolen from their parents, allegedly, as prevention. I emphasize, as prevention of domestic violence. Why can the system of deception work? Because people do not love the truth. They have turned away from the truth and are afraid of humiliation. That is why they prefer to go with the stream, but they are thus rushing headlong into the abyss. They could separate themselves, but they would thus not come up to the standard, and people would ridicule them as homophobes, fascists, xenophobes, primitives, or fools. The whole system shamelessly turns everything upside down. Those who really fight against extremism and neo-fascism are labeled as extremists and fascists and become the victims of a hate campaign. And if they defend themselves against this hate campaign, they are punished for hate speech. Does the system of lies and pride work in the church as well? Yes, it does. Jesus himself denounced it. In the last couple of years, the religious pride of atheistic theologians has destroyed the basic pillars of the saving faith under the lofty term science. Whoever stands up against this heresy is excluded as a sectarian and heretic. Francis today promotes Islamization in every parish and kisses the feet of transsexuals. Nonetheless, Catholics repeat daily in the Mass, together with our Pope Francis. Why do they not call him by his proper name, a heretic, and not stop mentioning him in the Mass? Because of the image of human pride, which rejects true repentance. They should be ashamed of Francis, since he brings shame upon the Church. But they are not. On the contrary, They should stand up proudly for Jesus, but they are ashamed of him. This is the fruit of the love for lies and of the rejection of truth. All this is caused by human pride that goes before destruction. Therefore, O faithful Christian, search for truth, love truth, defend truth, and fight for truth. Truth will deliver you from the spirit of lies and death.